All right. Well, first of all, thank you so much for taking the time for the Good Men Project. Um, Now, obviously, a lot of my questions will be Twitter based, and you for obvious reasons, people ask you a lot of questions about Twitter. Just to get this out of the way right off the bat, are questions about Twitter, has it reached the point where you're tired of them, and it's sort of like asking Rick Schroeder about silver spoons? Like, are you just done with it, or
No, I don't mind because all I think about is jokes and comedy. So I'm always thinking about like comedy theory and, jokes, moving pieces and such. So I'm thinking about it. So if people want to talk to me about it, that's nice. Then I don't have to talk to myself like a crazy person about it. So when people ask me questions about Twitter, they're just accessing the dialogue in my head that's already taking place between me and my spirit animal, Sean, who's a goat.
Tweety? Yes,
Hmm.
that's great. Yeah, good, because like probably 87% of my questions are Twitter based. And speaking of, most of what of one of my favorite things about your feed and why I follow you is your tweets are just gloriously, hilariously inappropriate. Even though underneath there's a lot of salient points about politics or society or what have you. But do you think even for you there are lines of comedy that shouldn't be crossed that even you won't go past?
I mean, there's no subjects that are taboo, in my opinion. It depends on the way you go about them, though. You know, I might tweet about off-color stuff or sex stuff or, stuff like that. But yeah, I think it's the way that you do it. It's the volition and the feelings behind it. So I think you can talk about anything, but if you're talking about a bad thing, it might be funnier to highlight how awful it is rather than be like, "Yeah, you should punch a homeless guy in the face." That's not funny, But you could talk about homelessness in a funny way that indicts the structures that lead to its existence, and it's okay to laugh at that.
Right,
So,
right. Because a lot of, I think a lot of people think that if speaking of punching homeless people, if someone either gets hurt or someone is truly offended, then
mhm.
something is by law not funny. Where do you stand on that patently ridiculous statement?
Yeah, I can't think of an instance where I've laughed at somebody being hurt. That's almost never funny to me. So I guess that's where I stand on that type of idea. And it doesn't have to be offensive. And
Right,
then there are people who are like, "You offended me," but they obviously get high from being offended. So they're fun to offend since that's their hobby, is getting offended. I mean, people who get offended need that because they're silly people. So I feel like I'm helping them.
right. As professional offendees, you're helping their
Yeah.
job be much
Mm-hmm.
easier. So speaking of Twitter, tell me a bit about the Twitter joke contest and what spawned that, and how'd you get in bed with the ice cream people?
I like the way you phrase that question.
Yes,
I'll
yes,
get
thank you.
in bed with any ice cream person because I like getting in bed, and then I also like ice cream. So if you combine them, that's what's called my wheelhouse. That's what we call it in baseball.
Into business.
So yeah, basically the Klondike Comedy Showcase, or we're going to hashtag it KCS for the actual joke entries, starts today. And for 10 weeks, I'm going to put out 10 joke topics on Twitter. So you can follow me, Rob Delaney, and at Klondike Bar. And we'll put out the 10 topics, and then you, or anybody who wants to, can participate and submit a joke. And then we'll judge if they're funny or not. And the funniest will get retweeted by me every week. And then at the end of the 10 weeks, we'll select the Grand Poobah Super Winner, and they'll get flown to New York or escorted. What if they're from New York? We would pick them up in maybe one of those rickshaw cabs. It wouldn't have to be a flight, and then
Piggyback, whatever. Yeah.
they'll come to the New York Comedy Festival and hang out with me and watch me eat a lot of the Neapolitan Klondike bars, which I enjoy. 3 flavors in one.
Wow.
Come on.
Yes. And what is Choco Taco? I actually thought it was Mexican food, but is that a brand of Klondike? Is that a chocolate
Yeah,
taco?
that's under the Klondike umbrella. That's part of the
Okay.
Klondike family, and it's an ice cream taco. They're insane. The peanut butter ones are my favorite, and you should stop this interview and go get one now because it's more
I,
important than anything I'll tell you. That's a tasty little son of a gun, or I should
excellent.
have said son of a G. I know you're not supposed to say swear words on this.
Oh, you can swear on Skype. That's fine.
Son of a gun. Ooh. Ooh, I feel dirty.
So, how are you different at home, and how has fatherhood changed you?
I'm very boring in real life. I'm like as boring as generic mayonnaise on a napkin, just a pile of mayonnaise. Because I put all my fantasy, ridiculous, silly stuff out in stand-up, and then magazine articles and Twitter and stuff. So by the end of the day, I'm way more boring than your accountant uncle who gets excited about like new lawnmower engines. So at home, yeah, I hope I'm not bursting anyone's bubble, but yeah, I like to do things like make omelets, vacuum, stuff like that. So I'm pretty low-key, domestic person at home.
That's horribly disappointing. What word were the women in your life used to describe you, and is it accurate?
What words would women in my life use to describe me?
Yes.
Kind, hardworking, sensitive, focused, fragrant, tall, hirsute, muscular, very muscular, extremely tall. Wow. I think those are some of them.
Just a few. Those are good ones. And you're a Boston guy, and it seems like there's something in the water in Boston that sort of spawns these transcendent, breakthrough comic talents. Louis C.K. and Stephen Wright, and the list goes on and on. Dennis Leary, Amy Poehler, whomever. Well, do you think there's something about Boston itself that just spawns good comedians? Is it sort of the
I don't know. One image that I like, it's not rare to go into a dangerous bar in Boston and see somebody like reading a book at the bar. I don't know if it's because there's so many colleges there or whatever.
Right.
So it could be that. When I think of Boston, I think of somebody sitting at a bar, drunk, trying to focus on the words of like an old book of poetry or something.
Right.
So that's a good recipe for comedy. I'm sure other places do that too. It's just growing up there, that's something that I saw a lot that sticks with me.
Right. Yeah, a lot of fights started over Thoreau in Boston bars.
Don't get me started.
Now you're in your 40s, I presume, or 30s. Are you in your 30s or 40s?
This interview's over. I'm 35. Okay. I don't even know where. Do your homework,
words,
man.
Yes. Yeah, I know. In other words,
I'm just kidding. I am 35, but
This is where you rip off the mic and storm out. In other words, you're old enough to have learned a lot of things in life. And what mistake do you look back on in your life, and would you warn the teenage Rob Delaney about to possibly avoid?
I mean, the easy one would be you don't have to drink every beer in the whole world. You can just drink like 1,000 of them, and that'll be enough.
That's very, very good advice. And who taught? Speaking of drinking beer, who taught you about manhood or acting like a man? Was it your dad? And if so, how are you most like or unlike him?
He's a good guy and a good man. I don't know. Maybe I read a lot. He's a big reader, so he taught me to read and use my brain, and I'm grateful for that.
That's excellent. And are you a crier? When was the last time you cried? And what made you cry?
I think I might have cried after I recorded my stand-up special a few days ago because I was very tired and I couldn't believe that it happened. So I think like a tear rolled down my face.
Excellent, good. That's sad and excellent. Now speaking of stand-up comedians, obviously that's your wheelhouse and your background. And who are some of the comics that inspired you as you were coming up, male or female?
Oh, Richard Pryor, Steve Martin, and then when I got to college, I watched the UCB, the Upright Citizens Brigade, when I went to NYU, so I'd go watch them.
Right. Excellent.
Hang on one second. Are you relying on me to?
We're gonna let's wrap it.
Oh, okay. I guess we have to wrap it up.
Yeah, I could have talked all day. All right, well, that's it. Thanks, really, thanks for your time, Rob. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Okay, great meeting you. Thank you.